Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rina Len Sinampaga from Morong National High School, and today I'll be discussing to you the topic which is overcoming reading difficulties. Please bear with my voice. Ako po ay sinisipon, so pagpasensyahan niyo na po yung boses ko. Okay, let's proceed. Today, our session's terminal objective is to identify interventions to overcome reading difficulties. So we are actually heading into one goal, and that is to find a solution on how we can help our students who are having these kinds of difficulties. And to realize our terminal objective, we have to, first, identify the various reading difficulties. Second, describe each reading difficulty. And last, suggest assessment strategies for identifying various reading difficulties as basis for intervention program. Okay, so first I'm going to show you a short video, and I want you to focus and be able to identify the difficulty that the learner has experienced from this one. So since we are not having the real-time session of this seminar, maybe you could just have your notes and your pen so that you can jot down your answers all throughout this session.
Three, two, one, basa. Taksan ang boses.
Sagot ni Loes. Ibinibigay ko kay nanay ang kalahati at inihuhulog ko sa alklensya ang natitira ko dong kaniya.
Tuwing umaga, nilagang mais at saging naman ang tinitinda ni Rene. Luis, magkano ang kinikita mo sa pagtitinda ng Dario?
Sige, doon nilang tingin. Medyo nabubulol ka sa pagbabasa mo. Anong naging problema kayo?
Nahihirapan po ako.
That is our first video for this session. So first video pa lang, parang medyo mabigat na. Medyo masakit na po sa puso, ano. So, after watching the video, teachers, what did you feel about it? Ano po naramdaman natin? For those who are not in the reading specialization or in Filipino and English subject, alam ko makaka-relate pa din po kayo, no? Because definitely even in math, science, and other subject areas, magpapabasa po tayo. And so, when we encounter this kind of students, when we are in that kind of situation, definitely it's a negative feeling po, ano? Next po is, do you have the same learners in your school? So, kung sasabihin niyo po sa akin na meron, then definitely tama-tama po na nandito po kayo ngayon sa ating pong rollout for this reading remedial. Ano po? Also po, for the last question is, what difficulty did the students in the video show? Ano po ba yung mga difficulties na nakita natin? Of course, nandiyan na po papasok yung pong nahihirapan po ang bata sa decoding, nahihirapan po magbasa ng mga words, and even sentences. And according to the other student, nahihirapan po siyang intindihan yung kanyang binabasa. So, with that, alam na rin po ninyo while we are doing this seminar for the whole week. Give you this one artifacts that we have gotten from DepEd. Aside from the results from the PhilErie post-test po, wherein we have there a huge number of students who fall to frustration and non-reader, also this one will show us that we should continue our advocacy, and that is to make every student or every Rizaleño a reader. During the results po of the PISA, I think this is from 2019, na-release po siya in 2019, but this is the results of the PISA 2018. So, according to this result po, we are at the bottom 3. Ano po, tayo po ay pangatlo sa huli. And it has nothing to do alone with comprehension in English or in reading, but it also affects po yung results po sa mathematics and science. So, Mama Sir, the big question here now is, what do you think is the cause why those students have reading difficulty? So, ito na po yung pinakamalaking question na kailangan po nating sagutin, and of course, we have to look for the solution. Okay, so there is a clear message po coming from our personnel sa taas po that we should stop doing this. Okay, and who's to blame with the results of this reading assessment? Tapusin na po natin itong ganitong klase ng mindset. We can all work together, we can all work hand in hand so that we can achieve our one goal, and that is to make each Rizaleño a reader and probably to become a leader someday. Right, so we are actually referring to two factors why we have this reading difficulties. The first one po is what we call the inadequate experience, wherein this insufficient experience of the students when it comes to reading po is divided into 3 contributors. So the first one po, with the least one, is from the community. And the second is from the school, at ang may pinakamalaking parte po nito is coming from home. Factor is the reading difficulty due to learning disability. So we must understand, though we are not specialists, but by merely looking at the students, by merely observing them when they write, when they talk, when they try to socialize with others, we can say na parang may something po, meron pong special needs yung bata, or meron po siyang difficulty or disabilities na we have to attend to. So, papasok nga po doon yung learning disability. It may be caused by physiological problems, and the brain may be wired differently from the others. So when we say physiological disorder po, this is a condition in which the organs in the body malfunctions, and it is caused by some illnesses. So example po, kung diabetic po yung bata, or meron po siyang asthma, definitely the student is taking medication. So that's the reason why po siguro when I encounter one student po namin, nakasama po sa aming Project Earn, when I talk to the parent or to the guardian, sabi po niya, bata pa lang po is nagme-medication na nga po yung bata. So, baka daw po naluto yung kanyang utak. So, from there, parang naisip ko na, pwede pa yun? Pwede pala yun? But looking at this presentation coming from our Sir Magno, so we can really consider this factor when it comes to their reading difficulty. Okay, so with that, we need to be familiar with the different learning disabilities, kasi maybe one day we might encounter students who are suffering from this disability. So the first one is what we call the dysgraphia. Second one is dyspraxia. Third one is dyscalculia. Fourth one is hyperlexia, and the last one is dyslexia. So these are the 5 learning disabilities. Let's have the first one. This is what we call dysgraphia, and it says it affects the person's writing abilities. It refers to a specific set of writing challenges. It impacts writing skills like handwriting, typing, and spelling. So if you may see it, if you may look at the pictures, ma'am and sir, we can see here a poor handwriting of students. And from this example, we may say na meron po siyang ganitong klase ng learning disability. The second learning disability is dyspraxia, and it includes difficulty in 4 key skills. The first one is the fine motor skills, gross motor skills, motor planning, and coordination. So, best example po from these learning disabilities are when the students are not able to have the hand and eye coordination. So, as simple as this, hindi po niya kayang mag-tie ng kanya pong shoelace. Isang factor po yun. As well as yung pag-button or unbutton po ng kanyang pong collar, ng kanyang blouses. That's one example or one sign of this difficulty. And kung familiar po kayo sa movie na Every Child is Special, we have there the child named Ishan. Makikita din po siya ng dyspraxia. Yes, it's another learning disabilities na meron po siya. Okay, the third one is what we call dyscalculia. So it affects a person's ability to do math. It is severe difficulty in making arithmetical calculations as a result of brain disorder. So, okay, the fourth learning disability is what we call hyperlexia. It says here that a child can read words at a level above what they can understand. So, parang mapapaisip ba, paano siya naging disability if the child can actually read? But if we're going to further study this one, it says here, significant difficulty in understanding verbal language. So, though the person or the child can read, but he fails to understand what he is reading, especially when he is listening or kapag verbal language na po ano. And sometimes po there is abnormal social skills and difficulty in socializing. So okay, and the last learning disability is what we call dyslexia. It is a reading problem wherein a student often creates difficulty with spelling, writing, and reading. So this is definitely is one of the common, I think, learning disabilities that we were able to encounter with our students. They are called dyslexics. Okay, so here are the common signs that a student or a learner may have learning disabilities, which includes the following. The first one is problems with writing. Number 2 is problems with math. Number 3 is poor memory. Number 4, problems in paying attention. Number 5, trouble in following directions or instructions. Number 6, clumsiness. Number 7, trouble in selling time. And lastly, problems in staying organized. Or if I may say, joke lang po, I think these are the common reasons kung bakit po umiinit ang ulo ng mga teachers sa loob po ng classroom. Tama po ba, mga mama sir? Ito na po yun eh. Ito na. Okay. Okay, so how are they different? We must at least remember 3 things. The first one is they need more time. So, since they need more time, I think we teachers should have more patience at all. Ano po, mas maging patient po tayo when it comes to dealing with this kind of students. Second one is we have to use homogeneous groupings. So basically po, we're going to group them according to their interests or with their skills. With that, they can at least help each other and come up with a better output during our activity. And the third one po is for diagnosed learners. When we say diagnosed learners po, siguro po ito po yung nag-undergo na po ng proper assessment para po masabi na sila po ay may ganitong klase ng disability. And so with that, dapat po meron po silang individualized education program for them. And this is done, I think, mula po sa ating mga special education teachers. And here are the 3 types of reading difficulties. The first one is what we call the SWRD, which is the specific word reading difficulties. The second one is SRCD, which is the specific reading comprehension difficulties. And we have the last one, which is the combination of these two, which is what we call the MRD, or the mixed reading difficulties. So this time I'm going to present to you the meaning of these 3 types of difficulties. So again, the first one is the specific word reading difficulties. So it is a problem of reading words but not to core comprehension areas such as vocabulary or background knowledge. That is according to Swirling in 2020. SWRD is typically observed among dyslexics. So we can say that those students who are under this type of reading difficulty is also having dyslexia. That is according to Humor and Mann. And lastly, dyslexia is a difficulty in developing word-level reading skills despite adequate instructional opportunities. These are the common patterns of SWRD. First, decoding and sometimes phonemic awareness is below average. Spelling is below average. Fluency is often below average due to decoding. Though these students may have these following strengths. The first one is they are good in learning orally through class discussions and teacher read alouds. Also, oral vocabulary and listening comprehension, at least average. Okay, so this time I'm just going to show you a short video. It is an excerpt from the movie Every Child is Special. I'm just trying to give you the illustration of difficulty of a student who is having this kind of learning disability. So let's watch this.
Can I have your attention, Ishan? Ishan! I said page 38, chapter 4, paragraph 3. Read the first sentence and point out the adjectives. Page 38, Ishan. Amitabh, just help the boy. Come on, the rest of you look at your books. Read the first sentence and tell me what the adjectives are. Okay, come on. Let's all mark the adjectives together. Just read the sentence for me. Just read the sentence, Ishan. Silence. Speak in English.
The letters are dancing.
They're dancing.
Alright, so that's how difficult for Ishan to read the text from the book. And according to his description, the letters are dancing. So from that movie, the teacher did not actually believe him, and the other students are making fun of him. But the mere fact is that Ishan really does or really did see dancing letters. It is because he is suffering from dyslexia or this kind of learning disability or learning difficulty. So, one thing that we must remember with regards to SWRD or dyslexia, they cannot read words. Definitely, they cannot read words, but they may understand them when they hear them from other people. Okay, so ma'am and sir, are you up with the challenge? I'm giving you one challenge now, and that is to read the paragraph and answer the following questions. So, napaka-short lang po ng paragraph na ito. Basahin po natin mabuti, and let us try to answer the following questions below. Okay, so here's this paragraph, and here are our questions. Maybe I'll be giving you at least 1 minute to give the answers, and later on, we're going to answer follow-up questions po with regards to this activity. Time is up, and here are our follow-up questions. Number 1 po, were you able to read the passage? Nabasa po ba natin, mga mamaster, yung passage? Of course, we were able to read them. Next question is, did you understand it? Naintindihan po ba yung binasa natin? Were you able to comprehend the short text or the short passage? Of course not. Tama po ba? But, how come you were able to answer the questions? How come you were able to give answers to the questions? Paano po nangyari yun, mga ma'am? Yes, we were able to read the passage or the paragraph, but then, no, we did not understand it, but we came up with our answers to the questions. Paano po nangyari yun? Okay po, so ganito lang po yun, mga mama, sir. Since we have this grammatical know-how, we were able to answer the questions, though truly we did not understand it at all. Wala pong sense yung binasa natin. Ano po? Wala po siyang storya, wala po siyang kahit ano pa mang sense. But we were able to give answers because at least we were able to identify po yung subject sa sentence, or yung predicate sa sentence, or we were able to at least identify the parts of the sentence. But definitely, we were not able to understand it. So that is what we call reading without understanding it, but we just basically rely on our grammatical know-how. Alright, so let us recall, mga mama, sir, that when we talk about SWRD, we are referring to students who are having dyslexia, who are dyslexics. So this time po, this SRCD, we are observing learners having hyperlexia. Okay? So description of difficulty, those students are having reading comprehension below average. Their oral vocabulary and listening comprehension may be weak, and fluency may be weak due to language limitations or not poor decoding. Though they had their strengths rather, which are good foundational reading skills, spelling often strong, decoding at least is average. Okay. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to show you another video, and I want you to identify, mga ma'am and sir, what could probably be the reading difficulty that prevented the person or the contestant from singing the right words or the right lyrics from the video. So let's watch this.
You know what we're gonna do. Let's
I can-
you know what we're gonna do.
I can do another song. Go. Abruv, I can fry.
Hmm?
Abruv, I can fry.
Hmm?
Abruv, I can fry.
Spell it.
A
Oh, I believe I can fly.
R.
You know, it's not the accent.
Mm.
Okay.
Can you sing that?
Well,
Yes. Yes. I mean.
but give me this last chance.
This is the last chance.
You know that you can. Can you show
I
you
can,
can?
I can do it.
All right. Let's. So when did you start with that? This thing.
Let me sing Abruv.
Go.
Abruv, I can fry.
Yeah. Right.
Abruv, I can fry. Abruv, I can touch the sky. And it's coming every fly away. Come to me and fly away. Abruv, I can fly. Abruv, I can touch the sky. Almost gonna be fly a team. On the way and fly away. Abruv, I can.
Okay, so there you go. So we can say that the contestant is actually or cannot speak or sing the right lyrics or the right words correctly. Also, he cannot spell the words, and he cannot understand what the judges were trying to tell him. So what do you think is the reading difficulty that this contestant is suffering from? Yes, and you are correct, ma'am and sir. The contestant earlier is actually suffering from mixed reading difficulties. So the person there doesn't know the letters and their sounds, and even when it is read to them or to him, still he cannot understand it. So that is what we call the mixed reading difficulties. So when we say mixed reading difficulties, the learner has difficulty in both word reading and reading comprehension. So even if these words are read to him by somebody, by the teacher, he could not understand it at all. No, cannot read and cannot comprehend. So that is mixed reading difficulties. Okay, at this juncture, let us summarize what we had for the past slide. So, reading difficulty is due to two reasons, and we have first one is inadequate experience or the insufficient experience of our learners, and the second one is the learning disability. So, with that, the three types of reading difficulties are, the first one is the SWRD or the specific word reading difficulty or dyslexia. Next is the SRCD or the specific reading comprehension difficulty or hyperlexia, and the last one is the mixed reading difficulties. Alright, so now that we were able to identify the problem, what do we need to do now is to assess, okay? We need to help our students, we need to help our learners, and the first thing to do is to do an assessment. So the first step in determining a struggling reader's pattern involves assessment of these abilities that underlie reading development, and that is according to Swirling. I know that we are much familiar with assessment because we are doing this from the very start, both in elementary and in secondary. During the opening of classes, we are doing the pre-test for the Phil IRI or Phil ERI, and by the end of the school year, we are also doing the post-test of this Phil ERI. So with regards to that, we were able to do assessment so that we can help our students. Here are the key components of reading to assess in struggling readings. First component is the out-of-context word decoding and spelling. the examples of useful assessments. We have the IRI, graded word list, CBMs with nonsense words, informal spelling inventories. So the suggestions are, you may include at least one assessment containing nonsense words. If nonsense word decoding is weak, assess PA, and spelling inventories may be useful for screening groups. So if the decoding of the student is really weak, we have to at least identify the phonemic awareness of the students. Also, we have to at least jot down or to write down the nonsense words. When you say nonsense words, these are the words that they actually said while reading a text which is not present in the text itself. So we may also include those. Also, okay, the next component is with oral text reading accuracy. So let me just read to you. So the examples that is given to us is to use the IRI or the ERI graded passages. We also have to have the child's accuracy of word reading in context, and it is suggested to consider whether the child applies no decoding skills when reading passages or overlies on context. While on the next component is the oral text reading fluency. The RII graded passages as well, we have to use that. The child's rate of reading in context. The CBMs involving oral passage reading fluency as well as the prosody rating scales. It is suggested that we should consider whether fluency problems involve. The first one is poor decoding, weak vocabulary listening comprehension, and lastly, if both are being experienced. And then we have the oral vocabulary, informal classroom assessments of child's oral vocabulary knowledge. We may also use that. And we have to consider if their vocabulary is weak or not, because that will also affect their comprehension. Next is the listening comprehension. We may have sentences or passages. Would you agree, Ma'am and Sir, that our students tend to have lower score when we are doing assessment, whether it's only a quiz or a formal test? When we are doing listening skills here, when the teacher is actually dictating or just reading the text and they would listen, they tend to have lower score. Bakit po? Di ba pakahirap na sa mga bata po ngayon na makinig or mag-pay attention sa teacher habang nagbabasa. So, that's the reason why we should always practice listening skills, and we should always incorporate this with in our tests or even in our everyday teaching to the students para ma-practice yung listening skills nila. So, it says here that IRI, we raise the IRI graded passages, the child's listening comprehension for passages read aloud by the teacher. And so it is suggested that we must follow up with multiple measures or more in-depth assessment if needed. Yun nga po yung kapag talagang bumabagsak ang score ng bata or hindi sila nakakapasa sa quiz or sa assessment when we are doing the listening comprehension test. And lastly, we have the reading comprehension. It is to answer comprehension questions about passages being read. So follow up with multiple measures or more in-depth assessment if needed. Alright, so this time let's exercise a bit. Let's have our minds, our brain function a little more. Okay. Okay, so since we are not having the real-time seminar or the actual discussion of what we have from this session, I'll be presenting to you the result of an assessment. For example, I am the teacher and I have here 3 students named Aida, Lorna, and Faye. I gave them assessment and here is the result. I want you, Ma'am and Sir, to identify saan po bang reading difficulty magpo-fall si Aida, si Lorna, and si Fe. So we have our three choices, of course, the SWRD, the SRCD, and the MRD. Considering the results po, please come up with your answers po. I'll be showing you the results. I'll be giving you siguro mga 2 minutes po. And let us check kung nakatama po tayo ng sagot. Okay, so we have here the different components for assessment, and then we have IDA. Okay, so IDA here is below grade expectations. That is for decoding. And for oral reading, often inaccurate in grade appropriate passages. For oral text reading, grade below grade expectation. Prosody often poor because of difficulties decoding. In oral vocabulary, grade appropriate or better, but also in listening comprehension, it's grade appropriate or better. And in reading comprehension, below grade expectations. So that is the result for IDA. How about for Lorna? We have here below grade expectations for decoding. For the oral text, often inaccurate in grade-appropriate passages. For the oral text reading, rate below grade expectations. Prosody often poor, sometimes but not always due to decoding difficulties. For oral vocabulary naman, Lorna is below grade expectation. Okay, so if you would notice, IDA is grade appropriate, but here Lorna is below grade expectation, as well as with the listening comprehension, below grade expectation din po siya. And for the reading comprehension, Lorna is as well below grade expectation. So what do you think is the reading difficulty for Lorna? Okay, this time let's have Fe. Fe is grade appropriate for the decoding. She is also grade appropriate for oral text reading. Grade appropriate and prosody in oral text reading. Fe is as well grade appropriate for oral vocabulary, but then she is below grade expectation for listening comprehension and below grade expectation for reading comprehension. So what do you think is the reading difficulty for Fe? Okay, so maybe we can reveal our answer for the following. Let's go to the next slide. Let us check your work, ma'am and sir. So, what do you think is the learning difficulty for IDA? The answer is SWRD. How about for Lorna? It's MRD, and for Fe, it's SRCD. So, who among you got 3 points? Perfect score. Okay, so that's very good, ma'am and sir. So at this point, mga mama, sir, we are going to assess the distance learning mode. So, ngayon po, balik po yata tayo sa GCQ, because of the number of cases that we are having. As of today, we already have 12 cases. Meron tayong fresh new cases. So, ingat-ingat po tayo, mga mama, sir. Para po tayo po healthy pa din, kasi whether we like it or not, still we're going to have our opening of classes, and so we are having this different mode of learning deliveries. So the first one is what we call the online, wherein the possible strategy is that the teacher can share her screen showing the material as the learner reads. So, pwede tayong gumamit po dito ng ginagamit na natin actually as of today, at this moment, yung Google Meet. We can also have Zoom, Skype, Moodle, and other kinds of platform. Also, we have the offline or the printed mode of learning delivery, though it is very difficult on the part of our students, kasi they would not. Well, they are lucky if they have someone to ask. They have someone to assist them, but Paano po if the parents are working or they do not have the ability or the capability to at least assist their children? May hirapan po ano. So, in our part naman po, the results may have low reliability. And integrity of material will be compromised. Kasi, of course, we cannot supervise them, we cannot see them. So, things may happen, di ba po? Yun nga po tayo nasa loob na ng classroom, they were able to do such thing. What more pa po kapag nasa bahay lang, especially kapag alone lang sila and they have all these means of communicating with others po. And the last one is the face-to-face, which is not recommended at all for the safety of the learner as well as the teacher. Ayan, so mag-check point po muna tayo. Ano po, stop po muna tayo at mag-check po muna tayo kung nasa na po ba tayo. So, at this point, we were able to understand the difficulty and we were able to know how to assess or how we can have our assessment. So, this time po, we're going to have the planning. Okay po, we have to plan for intervention. Okay, so I believe that each and every one of us is already practicing or already having our best practices that we are implementing in our school because as a matter of fact, we are doing our reading intervention with regards to our identified students with difficulty in reading. So here are just some of the suggested intervention that we can use. Maybe we can apply this to our own reading remediation when we go back to our stations. Okay, so for reading difficulty for SWRD or dyslexia, we may use the word recognition starting with MT or Filipino using modified Marungko approach. And also we can also have this WR in English. Also, we have to give emphasis on the phonological awareness of the students as well as the alphabet knowledge. So this will, I think, will fall to the students who are actually in the beginning level, those who will just be starting to learn how to decode. Kasi totally talagang hindi po nakakabasa, ano. So we may have this one. Okay, so we are also after our advocacy of making our students not just to read but also to become 21st century learners. So maybe we could practice this intervention with the use of technology. So we have our different means like gadgets, if available, so as to get the interest or to make our student interested in reading. So again, for SWRD, we may practice fluency in word. In word recognition, we can do modeling, we can do repeated reading, and also 1-minute reading. So in our case po, in Morong National High School, we have students who are really level as beginners. Hindi po talaga makabasa or they really could not read kahit po yung CPC, consonant, vowel, consonant. So we started from that low. Doon po talaga kami nagsimula from the very beginning. So we are using po tablets and we are using televisions and we are using laptops and speakers and all different media so that we can help them. Kasi medyo may edad na po. So if we're going to do parang puro oral lang, teacher and then student, we believe now with the use of this technology, with the use of these gadgets, at least medyo mas matutulungan po natin sila. Ano po? Especially nowadays na medyo techy na rin po yung mga bata. Yun na nga po yung question, techy na sila, pero pag pinabasa mo, hindi pa rin po pala nakakabasa at hindi pa rin nakakaintindi na binabasa. Okay, so as what I had mentioned po earlier, in Morong National High School, we have our remediation program, which is what we called Project EARN. So we were able to raise 10 tablets, We have 2 laptops and we have the e-library for our clientele. So I have here some pictures po. These are our students who were using tablet, and we have downloaded some apps to help them um, in their reading difficulty. So, dito po, meron po tayong spelling master, meron po tayong Dodge, basic sight words, and with the use of this, I think medyo hook po talaga yung mga bata. They enjoy reading, they enjoy spelling, they enjoy answering comprehension tests with the use of this technology. So, thank you po sa ating mga naging stakeholders po. Alright, so this time we have here some intervention that we can use for the students who are having the SRCD or who are hyperlexics. So, when we say SRCD, these are the students who can actually read, and sometimes nga po they tend to be possessive with numbers and the words and letters, but they could not actually comprehend what they are reading. So, marunong magbasa, magaling magbasa, mag-decode, but no comprehension. And also, yung weakness nila is that they still could not understand the word or the story maybe, or the paragraph or sentences through listening. So, kahit basahin ni teacher, kahit ulit-ulit na basahin ni teacher, nahihirapan yung bata na maintindihan po yung sinasabi or yung mga words or yung sentences. So the intervention that we can have is we must focus on oral vocabulary. Kailangan po natin mag-drill talaga, paulit-ulit po, paulit-ulit. Also, we can have the inferencing or making inference po. This is actually one of the competencies we have in grade 8. And this is under context clues po. So, talagang sarili po And also, we can have the background knowledge that is according to Swirling in 2019. Alright, so for strategies to develop oral vocabulary, here are some of the activities that we can have. We have here a list group label. We have word hunts, word maps, word walls, and we have these kind of learning materials. So since we will be doing the online teaching, maybe we can use po yung ating pong mga natutunan with our webinars using Kotobi and other application so that we can make our teaching online really effective and efficient to our students. So, marami na po din may mga nakagawa na po tayo ng mga activities na medyo playful po, especially po sa elementary students. Also, meron po tayong available videos from YouTube. Maybe we can also use that. We can download them and we can put them kapag offline, much better po, so that they can play it without the use of internet or Wi-Fi. And of course, we have the last one, which is a mixed reading difficulty, wherein the intervention that we can apply for this is we have to require intervention for word level reading and language skills development. So, babalik po talaga tayo sa listening, sa speaking, reading, writing, and even viewing po. We can use those 5 language skills for students who are having this mixed reading difficulty. So I hope po, with all the webinars that we have attended, and hopefully po magkaroon tayo ng ganito ding seminar sa ating pong INSET, so that we can provide the best practices that we can have, especially po during this time of pandemic. Medyo challenging po para sa atin, especially for those teachers who are not really that good in technology, but well, it is said nga po na we don't have any choice but to learn, to upgrade also. Kasi ito na yung tinatawag talaga natin na 21st century teaching. And we are adapting and we are trying to cope with this challenge po. Okay, let's flex our brain muscles again. Right, so since we were able to identify kung saan po ang difficulty or reading difficulty ng ating 3 students na sina Aida nga po, Lorna and Fe, so at least now we already know ano bang ayuda yung kailangan natin o pwede natin ibigay sa kanila. No? So we have here ayuda A for Ida, who is under the SWRD. So pwede po sa kanya yung combination of intervention, word, reading, and language comprehension, as well as the multi-component interventions may be useful for her. For Lorna naman po, who is under the mixed reading difficulties, so we may have her the ayuda B, and that is the explicit systematic intervention targeting specific comprehension weaknesses. So kung na-identify po natin yung specific weakness niya, then probably we can help Lorna with this ayuda. Also, we may include oral vocabulary and language in intervention. And for Faye, who is having the SSRCD or the specific reading comprehension difficulty, we can have for her the ayuda C. So that is the explicit systematic phonics intervention, as well as the phonological awareness and fluency intervention if needed. Alright, so this time po we're going to have a closer look at inferring. So, inferring is most often the least master skills from elementary to junior high school. So, lagi po siya lumalabas po, according to our source from the list of LMS from Dr. Neja Lagustan. So, when we say inferring or making inference, paano kaya natin ito matuturo sa mga bata? How are we going to teach them how to infer or how to make conclusion to our students? Okay, so I think most of us siguro po ay familiar na po with the BRB4, Blue Rizal Barangayan para sa bawat bata bumabasa. We have there one of the paraphernalias po is this BRB4 Magazine Teachers Edition. So from this instructional materials na gawa ng taga Rizal para sa taga Rizal, dito po marami po tayo makukuha dito ng mga guide po natin on how we can teach reading to our students. Okay, so as I was saying earlier po, dun po sa BRB4 po, sa magazine po for teachers instruction, this is an example po. So andito na po yung topic, pagbibigay ng hinuha, at nandito na po yung layunin and also the material, so yung kagamitan readily available na po. You just need to download and reproduce po this reading material so that we can help our students and also mas magiging mas madali po sa atin bilang teachers po. Okay po, so this time po, mabilisan na lang po dito po sa slide, papakita ko po yung mga hakbang sa paghihinuha. Ito po ay nasa Filipino. Sa English po ay making inference. So, ang una po natin mga kailangan gawin is, first, kailangan po natin pumili ng detalye sa talata. Kung makapansin po ninyo, meron po tayong mga reading text na meron pong number, di ba po, in each sentence. So, isa po yung magandang strategiya para mas matulungan po natin yung bata sa pag-intindi ng bawat pangungusap. So, lagyan ng bilang ang bawat pangungusap sa bawat talata, and then pipili na isa hanggang 3 pangungusap sa talata at tutukuyin kung ano yung sinasabing opinyon or informasyon na may akda tungkol sa paksa. Mas madali po kasi i-guide ng mga bata kapag sinabi po natin na halimbawa pa ay sentence number 1, 2, and 3, or yung pangungusap isa, pangalawa at pangatlo. Mas madali po mahahanap, mas madali po makukuhanan ng opinion or informasyon ng ating pong mga estudyante. So after po nating makuha or after po ng mga bata na makuha yung informasyon or opinion na may akda sa napiling pangungusap mula sa talata, ang pangalawa po natin gagawin ay iisip po ng sariling opinion at ikukumpara ito sa opinion or informasyon ng may akda. Magkakaroon na po tayo ng comparison. Pangatlo po, bumuo ng hinuha or hula tungkol sa iba pang maaaring sasabihing informasyon, isipin ang sarili mo opinyon at ikumpara ito sa opinyon na may akda tungkol sa paksa. Okay, so narito naman po yung strategiya sa pagtuturo ng paghihinuha. Una po, magpapabasa po tayo ng kwento. So kung mapapansin po ninyo sa ating pong unang bahagi ng kwento, meron po siyang numbering na. Ayan po meron na pong bilang or may number na po sa bawat pangungusap. Nang sa ganon, mas madali pong mahahanap ng ating mga mag-aaral ang pangungusap na gusto po nating pakuhanan sa kanila ng opinion or ng informasyon. At sa pagbuo naman po ng hinuha o ng hula, meron po tayong 3 hakbang na maaari gamitin. Ang una po, pumili tayo ng detalye sa talata. Ano ang ideyang sinasabi ng 3 pangungusap tungkol sa mga magsasaka? So po yung maging guide question po natin. Pangalawa po, isipin ang sarili mong opinion. Pareho ba kayo ng akda sa ideya tungkol sa mga magsasaka? Or kayo ba ay magkaiba ng pananaw tungkol dito? Pangatlo po, bumuo ng hinuha or hula. Pwede po natin maging guide question dito is, bakit kaya biglang naging positibo ang sinabi ng may akda tungkol sa magsasaka? So from there po, matitrigger lang po yung ating mga estudyante na mag-isip, bakit nga ba? Bakit nga ba biglang naging ganito ang pananaw ng may akda tungkol sa tauhan sa isang kwento? So magkakaroon na po doon ng paghihinuha or pag-iisip po ng mga estudyante. So mula po roon, dadako po tayo sa pangalawang hakbang at yun po ay magpapabasa na po tayo ng mas mahabang kwento po at bubuo po ng hinuha gamit ang 3 gabay na tanong. So, andito po yung ating sample na text at kailangan po makabuo po sila gamit ang 3 gabay na tanong, makabuo ng hinuha. So, after po natin magbabasa, pwede po tayo gumamit nitong matrix or nito pong table or chart wherein sa una pong column nakalagay po dito yung bilang ng pangungusap mula sa talata or sa kwento na kanilang binasa. Andiyan po yung kung 1 to 3 na pangungusap, kung pang-4 or pang-5 o pang-6. Sa pangalawang column po, andiyan po yung opinion o impormasyon na sinasabi nito o nung may akda. Sa pangatlong column po, dito po papasok yung sariling opinion or sariling alam sa paksa ng mga pangungusap at sa huli pong column, ito na po yung nabuong hinuha ng ating mga mag-aaral. And of course po, sa pinakahuli po ng ating pong strategiya, ang paglalahat, kung sa English po siguro di po ako nagkakamali ay parang generalization na po ang part na ito. So dito po ay tatanong sa mga bata ang mga sumusunod na tanong ng pasalita at ito ay gagawin po sa loob ng 3 hanggang 5 minuto. Meron po tayong 3 tanong. Una po, ano ang ibig sabihin ng paghihinuha? Ano-ano ang mga hakbang sa paghihinuha? At pangatlo, bakit mahalagang marunong tayong bumuo ng mga hinuha? Okay, so after po ng generalization, papasok na po yung ating pagsasanay, pagbibigay po sa kanila ng quiz po o ng maikling pagsusulit. So, dito po ang mga estratehiya. So, ang una po ay, ang pagsasanay po ay mabibilang po sa 3, A, B, or C. So, sa unang gawain po, meron po tayong ipapagawa sa mga bata at ihanda po ang mga worksheets. Meron pong babasahin na teksto at sasagutin po ang mga sumusunod na katanungan. Sumunod po ay ang estratehiya po ay tinatawag natin na gawain B. Ito po ay kung saan magpaparinig po tayo sa kanila ng isang balita mula sa radyo. Gamitin ang link sa kanan upang mapanood or mapakinggan ito. At pagkatapos po ay pasagutan sa mga bata ang ilang katanungan na sumusunod. So this time po, wala na po tayong choices, hindi na po ito multiple choices. At pangatlo po, sa gawain C, magpapabasa po tayo ulit sa kanila ng teksto, pero this time po, ito po ay sasagutin na nila sa kanilang sariling pangungusap. So, we're almost done mga mama sir. So, wrap up na lang po natin yung ating pong huling topic para po sa session na ito. Ano po yung mga steps natin in developing inferring skills? So, first one po, pumili po ng detalye mula sa talata. Tandaan po natin, mas maganda po kung lagyan po natin ng numbers ang bawat sentence po para mas madali po ma-identify ng ating mga estudyante. Our second step po is, ikukumpara po ng ating mga mag-aaral ang kanila pong sariling opinion sa ideya at impormasyon na galing po sa libro or sa kanilang nabasa mula po sa may akda. At huli po ay ang pagbuo po ng kanilang sariling hinuha. Ayan po, dalawang slide na lang po mga mama sir. So this time po, wag po kayong malulungkot, pero meron po tayong assignment. Yes po, iwanan po kayo na isa pong gawain or output po na kung mangyari po ay maaari pong sagutan na lamang po siguro mamayang gabi. And ipasa na lang po natin, i-forward po natin sa ating pong, saan po ba? Sa ating po bang GC or is it meron po tayong, meron po tayong tinatawag na facilitator po sa bawat class. Maaari po sa kanila na lang po i-submit yung ating pong magiging output. So, ito po yun. What are the reading difficulty do your students in school have? I-identify po natin ano po yung mga iyon. Number 2 po, what skills in reading would be the focus of the intervention na gagawin po natin sa ating pong mga school, sa ating pong mga stasyon. And number 3, in the current health situation in our community or in your community, what remedial or intervention strategy will you do? So, dito po, gumamit po tayo ng table. Meron po tayong 3 columns dito. Pakisagutan po. Assignment po ito. At ina-expect po na lahat po ay makakapagpasa ng kanila pong output by class po, or by school po. Ayan. So, alright. So, before I end this session, let me leave you this beautiful quote coming from the movie Every Child is Special. So, it says here, every child is a different kind of flower, and all together with the school, together with our school heads, together with the teachers, together with the parents, together with the stakeholders, and the students, we can make this world a beautiful garden. Thank you so much po. Sulong lang po, Sulong Blue Rizal. Once again, this is Ma'am Rina po from Morong National High School. God bless po and keep safe.